This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you with Coyle and Leary, also from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, of course, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to indiana.rivals.com and sign up if you haven't already, because we've got lots of stuff headed that way. On the program today, it is going to be big. Lily King, Olympic gold medalist from Indiana, is going to be joining us. Indiana's women's swimming and diving coach, Ray Lou, is also going to be on the program. And Jim Reamer, owner of Courtside, Indiana. We're going to talk some recruiting as Indiana lands Logan Duncombe to add to their 2021 class, Archie putting together, which he continues to lock down talent. Of course, he's outside of the state, but very close by. So a la early days of Bob Knight looking like, but we've got that to talk about. Stan Gord leaving UIndy, going to USI, Southern Indiana. Obi Toppin won the Wooden Award. The 5 finalists for Indiana's Mr. Basketball is released. We'll talk about that with Jim as well. Dre Davis from Lawrence Central, John L. Davis, Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal, Tony Perkins, all in that final 5. Women, on the women's side, Kendall Bostic from Northwestern, Madison Layden from Northwestern, and Sydney Parrish from, oh my gosh, I forgot the school. I forgot to write down her school, but she's going to Oregon. I think she's going to win it. She's pretty talented. But they're all pretty talented. But Jake, how you looking there? Okay, good deal. But yeah, lots to get to on this program today. But of course, a lot of people talking about Logan Duncombe as he committed to Indiana yesterday on the basketball side of things. A big 6'9" kid out of Cincinnati. I think that is a good get. We know that, but how good? Of course, we won't know until it all works out, but it is a good get for Indiana. And more importantly, it gives them someone at a position that they're going to desperately be needing in 2021, because probably you're looking at only having Race Thompson at that time. All the rest of the bigs will be gone. The other exception would be Trace Jackson Davis, which he will probably most likely enter the draft after that second season, guessing. We don't know that. I don't know that. But that you have to plan for that, I think. But looking forward to talking to Jim about all this recruiting action. There's just a lot going on. And you look down at the 5 finalists for Mr. Basketball with Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway, both of those guys heading to Indiana. Then you look at Indiana recruiting Trey Kaufman, Logan Duncombe, all 4 of those guys. Add Christian Lander into that. All 5 of those guys play in the Indiana elite program. And that's the best of the best in this state. And obviously just around the fringes with Logan over in Cincinnati. But yeah, that's the kind of talent that I know Hoosier Nation loves to see. They love to see those type of teams. If they can start playing as well as the talent that they're bringing in, I think Hoosier fans are going to be happy sooner rather than later. Mentioned Obi Toppin won the Wooden Award over Luka Garza. Yeah, those guys are going to just keep splitting awards. Very different players. I think they're going to have different impacts at the next level. Obi Toppin, a different player from Luka Garza. Luka Garza just can pound it on the inside, but he can also step out and shoot. Where Obi's more of an exterior player, but he can get in there as well. So, congratulations to him and the 5 finalists for the men's basketball and the 3 for the women's as well. Try not to mention a lot of news, especially sad. There's enough sadness. We try to stick to sports and keep it as light as possible, especially during this time. But I can't not mention, the passing of John Prine, one of the great songwriters of a lot of people's generation. Man, just a huge loss. Lost him to coronavirus at 73 yesterday. So can't not mention him, man. Just one of those American figures. And it's Keep taking it serious, folks. I have been, and everyone I'm talking to has been. So keep putting that together. But hopefully we can continue to knock this thing out. But yeah, I hate to see that, man. But it's rough out there, and we're just going to keep plodding along and trying to bring some entertainment to you guys. Lily King on the program today. Looking forward to talking to her, especially because the Olympics now postponed a year. You've been training all this time, and you set your body calendar to that and to where that countdown so it's bearable, because training for athletics is tough, as most of you, I'm sure a lot of you are athletes and have gone through that. But training at an Olympic level, that's beyond anything that any of us know, and to then have to add to that, it's crazy. But looking forward to talking to Coach Ray Lewis from the Indiana women's program as well, as they have made a resurgence here of late. I think Coach is joining us right now. Looking forward to him, but multiple-time Coach of the Year, 11-time Coach of the Year. Coach Ray Lewis joining us now here on the program. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great. Just like everybody else, spending some time with family at home. And eager to get back to my routine, which I really, really miss. And so just making good use of the quarantine, and thinking of new ideas and really putting my mind to work on what we can do in the future here at Indiana University.
Yeah, we talk a lot about during this time, athletes, whether it's a basketball player or a football player or whatever, it doesn't matter, to having to find a place to work out. And, now we talk about swimming, we're talking about a whole different animal here. A basketball player can go find a park and try to, find a goal. You can't just find a pool anywhere.
No, you can't. And even though a pool is a really safe place to be because apparently the COVID-19 virus doesn't really like chlorinated water. They're closed like every other institution. So from a physical standpoint, we're looking to lakes and trying to pray for this weather we've been having recently to continue so that those lakes warm up, because we got some beautiful lakes in southern Indiana.
Yeah, Should I expect to see you out here at Lake Monroe anytime soon?
You should expect to see people at Lake Monroe for sure.
So I will now, at least I will know what's going on out when I see those guys. I'm like, what in the world? So now we have a heads up. We got Lily King joining us later in the show. Looking forward to her. Obviously, one of the greatest swimmers, period, of all time. Doesn't matter male, female. I mean, you look down at what she's accomplished, and I started laughing because I'm like, it would take me an entire show just to list the accomplishments that she's achieved.
Yeah. She's amazing. I'd say the world record and the gold medals are super impressive, and the world record's the best that ever was. But something that's more impressive is the 8 individual NCAA titles. She swept the 100 and the 200 breast all 4 years. So a 4-year period like that, where, maybe you survive a lot of times when you don't have your A game. She's the best breaststroker we've ever had in this country and quite possibly the world.
And that's saying a lot for anything. But I was talking about training, all this. When we're talking about anything, Olympic level training achievements, it supersedes everything in all of sports in my mind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we have to go against the very best that the world has to offer. So the margin for error is very, very thin, and the world's so vast. There's millions of swimmers, and there's always somebody coming up, always, that you have to rise up and meet that challenge. So it's a real humbling endeavor.
And Indiana's been fortunate. They've had possibly the 2 most dominant swimmers on each men's and women's side. Mark Spitz, of course, still reigns as one of the most dominant swimmers. Of course, since then we've had Michael Phelps come along, but his legacy still stands. For one school to have possibly the 2 most dominant on each side, that's amazing.
It really is. And it goes back to the legacy of Doc Councilman. When he came here in 1957, we weren't known as a place for swimming and diving. And he got things going in the 1960s. Of course, the 70s were his heyday with the likes of Mark Spitz and Jim Montgomery and Gary Hall, but it had been a long time. It had been 40 years since we put an American on an Olympic team by the time 2016 came around. So the fact that it had been done before, I think, made it a bit easier. But we're lucky to have that legacy and that tradition at Indiana. We really are.
And not only that, Indiana was known for, was a swimming power and still is, but really resurgence here of late on both sides, men's and women's as well. Let's talk about your team. You guys are looking good as well. What are your expectations for this upcoming season when we get to it? Because I'm confident we will, especially since, like you said, you guys are maybe in the safest place, but you guys are really back to where you want to be.
Yeah, I expect our women to get back to contending for Big Ten titles and, continue to be a top 10 team. Our men, most likely, we were third with the men this year in the conference, but we were most likely going to be third in the nation because we had a very good NCAA team. So we get some redshirted athletes back this coming year. So I think our men can be a Big Ten championship team if we dive and swim well. And, have a hard time moving up from third, but anything's possible, because the Texas and Cal Berkeley are pretty stout in front of us. But if we do our best, then anything's possible.
Yeah, and swimming's kind of a unique sport because it's one where the men and women can train together and coach together, which is very different from any other sports that we see.
It is. And I would say our men and our women love training together. They complement each other, and beyond a varsity women's team and men's team, we have a pro group that's about 15 strong of men and women. And that unique mixture that is kind of you would only see that in a swimming and diving program is just really, it's a dynamic environment. People walk on our pool deck and they're like, wow, now this is an Olympic culture. Not just a good culture, not a great culture, but an Olympic culture.
And swimmers are different athletes to me. I remember being in high school and junior high school, but there was a kid that was my age and his hair was bleached out because he was in the pool every day swimming. And I remember that. And I remember that to this day, that to have that kind of discipline in individual events, like how Lily has dominated her discipline, but the discipline it takes for individuality, it's mind boggling to me to do that over and over and over to get better and better.
It's I try to think of sports that are harder than swimming, and I came up with a couple. I think rowing, world-class rowers, they put in as much time and energy as we do. And I think boxers, when boxers are in training, they're literally training all day long.
I was thinking wrestling, so I'm right with you on the boxing. It's similar thing, yeah.
And in boxing, you get hit back. So
yeah, that's right.
That's a difference maker.
That's right. It's very true. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember wrestling, and it blew my mind because it's a completely different thing. Just like swimming, it's a completely different use of the cardiovascular system. It's a completely different use of the muscles because you're using every single muscle you have when you're swimming.
Yeah, I shouldn't forget about wrestling because those poor guys don't get to eat. They got to work out hard, and then they don't get to enjoy a big meal like we do. But swimming's it's an all body exercise, upper, lower, cardiovascular. Now we got to be strong and lift a lot of weights. So it's the whole deal.
And now the athletes that you have now that will be coming back, that obviously great disappointment not being able to compete this year. How do you mentally keep them moving forward and get past this? Because it's tough for all of us. But man, when you put all that effort into it, like I look forward to talking to Lily because they've moved the Olympic trials now. It's a whole another year of training. So when you're geared towards that mentally, what are you having to do to work with them on that regard?
I never had a Zoom call until 2 weeks ago, but I'm, we're becoming familiar with that tool. We had a team meeting yesterday, and it started off great, and then we tried to break up into smaller groups, and it totally fell apart. So we're trying to use things like Zoom to stay connected and to keep the mental well-being. of our team in place. So we had a doctor talk to him about, best practices, and also maybe when we might see a return. I guess in Indiana, this pandemic is supposed to peak April 16th and maybe, be in a much better place by May 1st. I just saw that this morning. So he kind of went over that information. We had a nutritionist talk to him, but we're just trying to stay in front of them and keep them interacting, even though they're not with each other.
Yeah, and training wise, what are they doing now that they can't physically train? Because again, I know it's all the same for all athletes, but it's not the same for all athletes because training is much different for some, especially swimmers.
Yeah, we had a head coaches meeting of all the coaches at Indiana, and the track coach is like, we're doing all right because we can go outside and go for a run. Largely, we're not doing much because swimmers are notoriously poor runners. I think we're attempting to do it, but we're not great at it. So we don't have a whole lot going on physically, And now Lily's different. Being a pro, she's been able to do a little bit more with me. There's an NCAA ban on working with your varsity athletes right now, but where we can, we're working with our pros in a gym and in a small 1-lane pool, private pool. But it's a great distance away, so it's not easy.
Is giving Lily King another year to train bad news for the rest of the world?
In her case, she was ready to go now, and I think she'll be ready to go then. So, you'd have to ask her that question. I know she was ready in 2020. That's kind of what we mentally prepared for, but just like anything else, you have to adjust, and she's pretty good at that.
What do you got coming forth next year? Some of your greats that are going to be coming back, Coach. Who are some of the kids that you're expecting big things out of?
I think Michael Brenniger, he redshirted this year. He's coming back as a sophomore, and I think he's really going to do a good job, and it'll benefit a young guy like that having some more time. He's a distance swimmer. Andrew Copabianco, he's an NCAA champion diver. He's coming back. Bruno Blaskovic from Croatia, he was one of the best swimmers in the NCAA this year. He'll be coming back. Emily Weiss from Yorktown High School, she's coming back for her sophomore year. Those are just to name a few of people that we're excited about, but we got some really good swimmers that I think are going to do well. Cora Dupre, she'll be coming back for her sophomore year. We had a really good freshman girls class that I'm excited to see what they do as sophomores.
I think I saw are some of the guys down in Brazil attempting to train?
They were, but they got quarantined the minute they got in the country. So,
oh man, can't win for losing.
Anybody that wasn't from Brazil left, and the Brazilians they're down there with their families just like everybody else. University sent everybody home. So it was funny. I was reading about Sir Isaac Newton yesterday, and in 1665, the Great Plague hit London, and even back then, they sent the students home. They knew well enough to send the students home. And I was telling the team this story because in the 2 years that he had to stay at home, he came up with his theory on optics, his theory of gravity, and came back. And within like a year, they made him a professor, something crazy like that. So, it's happened before, and it'll happen again, hopefully not in our lifetime.
Yeah, it certainly will. Coach, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. It's a weird time out there, but I hope everybody gets back together, but continues to stay healthy and keep moving forward.
Yep, you'll enjoy talking to Lily. She's very entertaining.
She is great. We love her. Yeah, she is one of the most personable superstars I've ever been around.
Yeah. You guys take care and stay safe.
Coach, thank you very much. Have a great day. There's Coach Ray Lewis joining us, 11-time Big Ten Coach of the Year for Indiana Swimming and Dive. Looking forward to talking to Lily here in a little bit. One of his former athletes, as she is preparing for the Olympics in Tokyo now that is been postponed. But yeah, man, they're back where they need to be, and looking forward to them. So we got a lot coming up here. Jim Reamer's going to join us. We got a lot of recruiting news to talk about as Logan Duncombe commits to Indiana, that and a lot more. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. We're back with that. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
When I was a young girl, well, I had me a cowboy. He weren't much.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle and Leary, there's a little John Prine for you. Lost him yesterday, age 73 to coronavirus. Jim Reamer's going to be joining us here. We got some recruiting to talk about. Logan Duncombe commits to Indiana yesterday. That gives Archie a big that he's looking for, 6'9" kid out of Cincinnati. I think is probably – 6'9" is going to be a big in Archie's system, I think, once he gets his roster where he wants it to be. I think we're going to see a lot more tempo. We heard a lot about that last year, but we didn't see it. And I think that's where he's trying to get to. You've got Trace Jackson Davis, who was very successful in the post, but could get up and down the floor and very active. So looking forward to that, but looking forward to seeing what Logan can do once he gets into this program, because Indiana's going to be the bigs are going to be in a shift in 2021. You're going to have Race Thompson as the only big here, most likely, if Trace Jackson Davis visits the draft after next season, which I think is more than likely. Looking forward to talking to Lily King here in a little while as well. Waiting to get Jim Reamer on to talk about some recruiting, as Indiana is looking to continue bringing in the type of player that I think a lot of Hoosier fans are looking forward to. It harkens back to the old days. Todd Leary, those guys. You look at that recruiting class. Those are the kind of guys that I think Hoosier fans are used to, that they want to see. A lot of those kids were all from Indiana. They were all from the area. Eric Anderson from Illinois. It's like Logan Duncan being from Cincinnati. Just those fringe players. And, of course, a ton of kids from within the state. That Indiana elite program has just been a producer of talent of epic proportions for this state. And it continues to be that way. Expecting to get Jim on here with us shortly. Jake, have you given him a call? All right. Obi Toppin won the Wooden Award. I knew that was going to come down to him, Luka Garza. We all did. But those are two different type of players I talked about earlier. A lot of people, you're either on one camp or the other with those guys. They are different style of players. And I know you can't go wrong with either one. But we've talked about who's going to have the better pro career. But that's not relevant to being a better college player. But I loved Obi Toppin's game. But Luka Garza's a guy, because he battles so much, he's going to have to withstand the rigors of his body being pounded on. Year in, year out, where Obi Toppin's going to be on the outside. So it just depends on what style of game you prefer in that. Logan Duncan to Indiana, it gives a lot of confidence, but it also invites other players. Now, there was some talk, and I look forward to talking to Jim about this here in a second, about bringing along Trey Kaufman, and that may be a hindrance. I don't see that. They're not the same player at all. They don't play the same position. But Jim's joining us right now. That's why I hear that in my ear right now. But Jim Reamer joining us from Courtside, Indiana. Jim, how are you doing, brother?
Doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Just talking about Logan Duncan, first of all, his commitment to Indiana, what that means for Archie Miller, and as he continues to try to do some roster renovation as he gets into his fourth season.
Yeah, I liked him. Being out of state guy, I haven't seen him as much as I would if he was an in-state guy. I know the times I have seen him, it's been in the summer with his Indiana Elite AAU team, and I've liked him. Every time I've watched him, he's looked improved each time skill wise, and I like he seems to be improving facing the basket, and that's the part at 6'8". he's going to have to develop that as well. He's not going to be able to be a back to the basket, a pure back to the basket guy. I know he's got good length, but that's the part of his game that any guy of that size would strive to improve, and I like the direction that he's going.
And I've been talking about this for a while. As you look ahead to that 2021 season, Indiana most likely going to be down to Race Thompson, and now you've got Logan Duncan to add to that. If Trace Jackson Davis ends up going to the draft, which he may not, I don't know. I'm not even going to make that prediction, but you have to plan for that, I think. So they have to look at that. And is Archie? We heard so much talk about tempo with him. We didn't really see that last year, but is Logan Duncan a kid that you can put in the middle but still run the floor?
He could be a trail big. I mean, you look at him. I don't know yet how athletic I think he is, but a kid that's got face-up skills can be a trail big, because that could be a guy that can hit the top of the key three, or at least be a threat to hit that shot. He could be a guy you can run offense through, especially initially in like a secondary break. And he can also be a guy that you get early ball screen action out of, which then you can play into other types of offense. And that's if you're trying to score quickly within the flow of your offense. Even if Trace were to stay, this would be a good pickup. I mean, this wouldn't be something I would judge. Not that you did it in that context, but for, the listeners who are thinking, yeah, this is great because Trace might leave. It's great no matter what. I mean,
right.
Duncan is a good prospect and a guy that I think has pretty good upside.
Absolutely. And to go with what Archie is bringing in, I know he's trying to get to where he has roster balance, and I'm not sure they're quite there yet, but trying to get to that level.
Well, balance and flexibility, not just flexibility in, position wise, but flexibility in skill set within each position group. The ability for Trace to be a guy who can drive from scoring range. Race is going to eventually be that player. I think Trace will develop, continue to work and develop a jump shot to at least be somebody that it has to be guarded out there from mid range, and also maybe a guy who can utilize his right hand a little more. I think Race has got nice shot mechanics to the point where he becomes a threat, facing the basket. And now if you got a guy like Logan coming in, he can play off of guys like that. I mean, Race would be a senior when he's a freshman. Trace even would be a junior. So you don't expect Logan to come in and just produce right away, but he's going to be a nice transition player as the guys move up and graduate, and a nice piece that you can play around with future prospects. Like you pick off, for example, those two guys could easily play on the floor together, and it projects out at the high major level.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen Trey. He likes to be outside a little bit more and get that shot up. Which, if he can do that at 6'8", he's going to be a great benefit to that offense.
Yeah, Kaufman would be a nice addition. I mean, for me, he's the player in that 2021 class that has the highest ceiling. Other than maybe, and I've been a big Blake Wesley advocate as well, but yeah, Kaufman would be a nice pickup. Certainly, that's an understatement at this point. But again, just knowing that even, conceivably IU could go out and, I don't know, land a 7-footer. They could, if they could land, Frank, Kepning. I don't even know who that guy is, actually. It's bad. Again, out of state guys. It's definitely a weak spot for me, but they could land additional size and still feel good about Logan and how he fits in and where he can play on the floor.
And Archie is really using Indiana elite well. You got Duncan and Kaufman, Leo Galloway, Lander, all coming out of that program.
Yeah. Well, they're Indiana guys. Hopefully, a guy like me that's grown up liking loving IU. And even though I enjoy a good Butler game every now and then, but a guy that grew up loving IU and having a chance to see 3 titles, it's nice to get to a point where Indiana kids are growing up, or at least getting into high school and really wanting to play at Indiana. And I would feel the same about Purdue and now Butler. The basketball is better in this state when those 3 programs are really good. And when the IU Purdue rivalry means something besides just the rivalry, it's something special. And it's nice to see. It would be great to get back to the point where both those teams are really good together every year.
Absolutely. And I looked at how this roster is coming together, and it reminds me of back when, Todd's out sick today, but it reminds me of back in his era when the recruiting class he came in, those kids were all either from Indiana or Illinois, or Chris Reynolds was from Illinois. Eric Anderson was before them, but he was from Illinois. All the guys from right here, this base, and it's kind of getting back to that.
Well, and back then, those are the guys you knew. And they really know each other now because of the AAU thing. And of course, the teams Todd played on in AAU, there weren't as many teams as there are today. But he was in a situation where a lot of those guys he played with, back then it would have been Municipal Gardens, coming up out of the city. I mean, Todd was a township kid, but still coming up out of the city. If you lived in central Indiana and you were really serious about basketball, odds are at some point you touched down at Municipal Gardens. And so those guys kind of knew each other through that connection, and you're seeing that in a different way with just more of an extended AAU, just not only here but across the country, how it plays out. But that familiarity, I mean, there's no question it plays a role in some of these guys' decisions. The ability to play together with friends. You've won together at a certain level. Now maybe we can go to college and win together there and be part of the fabric of high major basketball in the state of Indiana.
Since these guys all have that relationship, the Indiana elite relationship, how much do you think that may help Indiana in trying to land Trey Kaufman?
I don't know. As much as we just did talk about it, each kid's going to make up his own mind, and they should. It shouldn't play a role because, it shouldn't play too deep of a role when it really comes down to the seriousness of their future. I would advise any kid that I coach or any kid that would ask me for advice to really be particular about what their short range goals are after college. That to me has to be a big part of their decision making. If you're Trey and you got a chance to be maybe a chance to be a pro, and I don't even mean just set your sights for the NBA. I'm talking about being a pro. You've got to consider, where am I going to get developed? Where am I going to get a chance to definitely be part of the rotation early, and maybe even be a big part of be a focal point as early as my sophomore year. You've got to consider those angles as well. And I think for him, it's a great fit for Indiana right now. So it works out pretty well. But if it didn't, then, you just on a case by case basis, you've got to look at it from the perspective of what's in the best interest of the athlete. And it's nice when it comes together. And it's fun. And it's probably fun for them. But at the end of the day, you see kids like that make those decisions. They end up transferring and not being very happy about where they landed. Certainly appreciate their teammates. They may even, they love their teammates. They may even love their coaches, but it's just not a good situation for them. And they have to think in that regard of what's in the best interest of their short term. I'm not sure at that age if they think long term, but the short term from my perspective would be, what am I going to do my first year or two out of college? That's what I'm using college to prepare for. No different than any student might do in college. Why am I getting this degree? What's it going to prepare me to do when I graduate? That's the question those guys have to answer, even athletically.
We're talking recruiting with Jim Reamer, owner of Courtside Indiana, here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. And we're back right after this with more. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily, Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rival. What's that? Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, indiana.rivals.com. Get yourself set up there if you're not already. Jim Reamer with us from Courtside, Indiana. We're talking some recruiting. The 2021 class in Indiana, Jim, has been looked at as one that's huge. Now, some of that's being changed. Obviously, Christian Lander may or may not end up being in that class. But regardless, a lot of talent there next year yet to be plucked by some of these colleges.
It's a massive class. I mean, we did a podcast last week on our website for the Junior All-Stars, and typically you play this game where you go through the list, and there's guys who are off of it that are snubs or that are omitted, and you go through the process of trying to figure out, even if it's just a mental exercise, of who would you take off. I mean, we found 4 or 5 guys that could easily be on that Junior All-Star. That's a group of 20 kids, and there's 4 or 5 more that are, in our mind, definite D1 guys, maybe even mid-major guys. Now, those guys may not impact how Indiana recruits, but it impacts how competitive the state is. And there's a lot of high major talent in this state, and it's really it's a deep class. It's top heavy, but it also has a lot of depth, and there's still some guys out there for Indiana to go after, and be curious to see what their mix is of players.
With what they have now, obviously they're kind of guard heavy. You got Trey Galloway, Anthony Leo, Geronimo, who's not really guard, but coming in and they to add what they already have, Armand Franklin, and where do you see them going, or what would you like to see for them as far as the roster balance we've talked so much about?
Well, it would be Kaufman. I mean, that's the obvious answer. I mean, Logan Duncan's a nice. Again, we've already kind of beat both those guys. We've already hammered those two guys home already. So I think that's the focal point. Anytime you can get skilled size, that's a premium. And they really don't have a whole lot of offers out there, which is one thing I like about Archie is he's not shotgunning offers. I think shooting is a premium. They've proved that this year. They need more of that. I think you look at a kid like Blake Wesley who is definitely an above average to really good shooter and somebody who I think is going to do nothing but improve. Athletically, he's got everything you need. Physically, he obviously could stand to get stronger. Or someone like Pierce Thomas, who's committed to Butler, already has the strength the requisite strength to play as a freshman. Blake would need to get stronger. A lot of kids, a vast majority of these guys need to get stronger. But Blake is a kid that I think would fill the role of, hey, he's definitely an outside threat. And he's definitely a guy who can make a lot of plays in the paint and a lot of plays at the rim. So those are the top two kids in that class as far as I'm concerned, with Caleb first, not too far behind, and Christian Lander right there as well. If you just look at Christian still in that class, but those two guys would be great gets, and both of them would fill definite needs for Indiana, not just in terms of, hey, let's go out and get the best talent we can, but especially both, as well as both those guys shoot, that's going to be a premium for what Indiana needs to add going forward.
How tough is it going to be for Archie to get Blake out of South Bend? I mean, he landed Demezy Anderson, which was the first player in like 4,000 years since the great John Leskowski. But he's up there. He's pretty far north.
Well, you wonder too. Not that you make these decisions
right
in this regard, but you look at Demezy falling out of the rotation late in the year. Does that impact Demezy's state of mind? Then Demezy graduating from South Bend Riley, does that impact how he sells the program to Blake? And I can't blame a kid like that if he's discouraged with the situation. Hopefully, a kid like that gets tough-minded and decides, hey, you know what? I want to make this work. I want to get better. I want to be a guy they can go to and rely on. I'm encouraged that he hasn't entered the transfer portal yet. Not that we should speculate on such things on a regular basis, but it's a question that late in the year when any kid that had gotten some minutes falls out and doesn't play. Of course, there could be a lot of reasons why that happens that may or may not have anything to do with a coach's view of his long-term fit. But Blake, I don't think recruiting South Bend is that difficult for Indiana if you put the time in. You look at how Notre Dame doesn't ever recruit the state of Indiana, but if they put the time in, they've been able to come down even to Indianapolis and get guys, whether it be Chris Thomas or whether it be Austin Burgett from Avon. And, Thomas, of course, had a really great career at Notre Dame, and Burgett was primarily a role player throughout his career. Recruiting is relationships, and there's no reason to think that Indiana couldn't form a relationship with a kid in South Bend, with a kid in the region, with a kid from Evansville, or even a kid in Lafayette, like Robert Fennessy. So you just look at how they handle their process, and I think it's wholly possible for them to land Wesley.
Yeah, and this is not based on science, but I think that Blake Wesley is one of the most important pieces for Archie to land, because Indiana has been known for so long as a school with shooters, and what they do so much of is based on that, but they haven't had that for a couple years, and he seems like he could be that elite shooter that really helps propel what Archie is trying to do offensively.
He's getting there. I mean, he's not Leal in terms of his ability to shoot. But he's a guy that he's really a lot like Victor Oladipo. You hate to make that extreme comparison, but you look at a kid that's not an elite regarded recruit, but has the elite athleticism that as he starts to really focus on improving his skill set, not that he's not putting in the work now, but there just seems to be a jump when these guys go to college, regardless of what happens in high school. You get a situation where he starts to really become a 35, 38, 40% three-point shooter. That just changes his complete dynamic. And it may be something he feels like he's doing now, but he's got to show it at the college level. If he can come in and shoot at those percentages in college, it changes a lot of perceptions about any kid. But a kid with his athleticism, all of a sudden he starts moving high up the board, and you start considering him for things beyond college.
And if you can get a Trey Kaufman and a Blake Wesley, there's going to be a lot of expectations on this program, which is good, which is I'm sure that Archie and everyone else would take as opposed to not. But they're going to quickly possibly get to where they're trying to get.
Yeah, no question. And I think that momentum is nice too, just for recruiting as a whole. You start looking at it from that perspective, and in this day and age of social media and how these kids all know each other growing up. I mean, a lot of these guys have known each other since they were in the 8th grade. You didn't really have that back then. Back when we were coming up, or I don't know, I graduated from high school in '88. So back then there would be times where you would see a kid commit to Indiana, and even a kid from Indiana, you hadn't seen him play yet. Now that's just, if you're a basketball fan that follows the game year round, it's really difficult not to see these guys at some point, especially if you're kids and you start seeking them out. And, these guys will make sure they get around to watch everybody else play starting in 9th, 10th grade. And they're very familiar with even the kids they don't play with, whether it be that or a camp, because there's a lot more of those now. There's just a lot more familiarity, and they start to get excited about it. Again, that touches on something we talked about earlier in this conversation too.
Make sure you give Jim a follow on Twitter if you haven't already, at JW Reamer, owner of Courtside Indiana. What else if people want to follow you, what are some of the things that you're going to offer to them that those that don't already know?
From a social media standpoint, that's the best way. If they want just basketball, I would follow the Courtside Indiana account. If they want my shenanigans, they can follow me. I welcome it, but I have fun with it. From a website perspective, Courtside Indiana, we launched this fall. It was sort of a relaunch for me. I had a website called Hoosier Hoops Report from 2004 to 2012. Kind of transitioned my way out of it when the fall league that I run up here every October really started to take off. It just became better to do that, and now we've got one really good writer in Zach Tyler who handles Northern Indiana for us. We are looking to bring in somebody to cover Southern Indiana. We do have somebody doing it, but he's the dad of a player, and sometimes he likes watching his son play. So, and as his son transitions to college, it'll be we'll see. I'm not going to turn down anybody that loves the game like that. So, but that's where we're going with it. We're going to cover we were going to cover the AAU season, so now we'll see. Everything's up sort of in limbo right now. But once that gets going, we'll definitely be covering it, and then we'll be ready to hit it hard when next season rolls around.
Absolutely. With Jim, can't thank you enough. Also, you can make sure you can find him at Indiana Rivals as well as a contributor there. So looking forward to doing more and more of that with you on there. But thanks a lot so much for joining us today. We appreciate you, brother.
All right, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. There's Jim Reamer joining us from Courtside, Indiana. Up next, Lily King joining us here. We're back with that on Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals.
The city of the stars, movies, women, and cars. Well, I guess
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily, Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those champion photos. That's how we'll get Family Dentistry. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Dr. Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, it's Michael Lewis, former Indiana University player and current UCLA assistant basketball coach, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals, joined now by the greatest of the great, Lily King. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Not a problem.
Just had Coach Ray Luz on with us earlier. He's trying to get by through this unique time. I know someone you're very familiar with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So how's things going for Lily? I know that we're in this weird time, Lily. What's going on with you? Because I know the training is kind of stopped and all that. What's the daily life for you like right now?
Yeah, we kind of, the last week or so, we've kind of had more of a schedule, which has been nice just because, like the last month, everything's been in limbo so much. But yeah, I'm swimming 4 days a week now. We're able to swim at a private pool. So me and a couple other teammates are going there and doing that 4 times a week. And then still lifting and running a little bit and just kind of taking it easy for the time being.
So you're able to somewhat stay into it, which has got to be maddening for one thing, because I know your body, your mind, you plan yourself at a clock to get to that point, and then to have it postponed for a year. How hard is that mentally for you to have to reset that body mental clock?
Honestly, it hasn't really been too bad. I think I handle stress in a weird way. Like it hasn't quite hit me yet. So we'll see if it hits me eventually. I don't know, but it wasn't like I was going to be done after 2020. So now it's just we have 3 years in between the next two Olympics, which is probably even better for me. So I'm all right with it right now. It's kind of weird, like not being in full training, because I think it's the first time pretty much in my whole life that I haven't been, training as hard as I can every moment of the day. But yeah, just kind of taking this break and taking it easy and just doing what we can.
Is there a way that you can try to turn this into an advantage if possible of another year of training? I don't know if that's possible, but just trying to look at some positive way of looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, there's always something you could be doing better. And now we have an extra year to kind of work on those things. So, whether that be recovery or nutrition or how fast I'm going in workouts, I could really use this next year to make myself better, which is kind of what I'm rolling with right now.
Being from Evansville, our listeners on the Ref 97.7 down there. So thank goodness you won't have, you found a training facility. You won't have to be training in the Ohio River.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've swam in that river, but I've been there, and it's not one of the funnest places to swim. That's for sure.
Yeah, don't want to swim in the river, but it is what it is.
No, absolutely not. How's the teaching going? I know you were student teaching, and I assume that's finished up, obviously, because the schools are out. But how did that go? How did you enjoy that experience?
Right. Yeah, I finished around November, and it was awesome, and it was really weird kind of adjusting back to not being teaching because I was pretty much teaching all of last year. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was kind of a nice way for me to separate like the swimming world from the actual world, which is something the swimmers don't really get to do very often. So it was nice to know I have something after swimming, and I had a ball. It was so much fun.
What level were you teaching?
So I had middle school in the spring, and then I was in elementary in the fall.
Yeah, there's nothing like a 12-year-old kid that can bring you back to reality, no matter if you're an Olympic gold medalist or not. I think 10, 12-year-old kids have the ability to make us humble. So teaching is something that you're looking at doing after your career's over, your swimming career?
I think eventually. Yeah, I don't think when I'm first done something, I'll go straight into teaching. But yeah, I can definitely see myself doing that in the future for sure.
Swimming is a unique sport. We saw Michael Phelps kind of really stretch it out. How long do you think you can or want to go at this level of competition?
I don't really know, to be honest. I was always going to say 2024 was going to be the hard cutoff date. But now it seems like 2024 is approaching faster than I thought it would. So, I'm just I'm going to keep doing it as long as I love it, as long as I'm not, injuring myself too much, and and we'll see what happens. So yeah, I'll keep swimming as long as I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, and Lily, when we look down your accomplishments, and I know that it's probably hard for you, knowing the kind of person you are, it's hard for you to sit here and listen to all the accomplishments. But if I had to list those, it would take an entire show to do that. But yeah, you still have this drive. How do you, when you've already succeeded and you've reached the top and you've won, set world records and won gold medals, how do you keep pushing yourself for more to get over that hump?
Yeah, that's the hard part that I feel like no one ever talks about. But yeah, it's definitely really difficult. Just kind of, coming back from winning an Olympic gold medal or coming back from setting a world record and getting in and wanting more. But I think I just hate losing so bad that that's kind of what motivates me. Because if all of a sudden I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do at practice, then I start getting beaten. That's just no fun. So I think the thought of losing at some point really keeps me going.
Yeah, and I've talked earlier about, because we're talking training of all levels, whether I'm talking about high school kids playing basketball or whatever, but Olympic level training, I know without even having doing it, it is the ultimate, it is the highest of the high. And to maintain that level through something like this, how difficult has that been for you? I know you said it hadn't been that tough, but I know you've got to stay at this certain level and to get through all this.
Yeah, it's definitely been hard just trying to, because most of the pools are closed. Well, at least all the public pools are closed. So we've had to make arrangements otherwise. But yeah, just trying to find pool time and gym time and that kind of stuff has been really hard. But I think, we're starting to realize that any training that we're doing is more than most people. So I guess I'll just keep it in my head that I'm still doing more somehow, even though we're not doing nearly as much as we used to. But we're still quite a ways out. So I'm not too worried yet.
Yeah, and I've talked about the accomplishments earlier, and obviously the goal is always to win. But what are your goals for the next Olympics? What are some of the things that you want to talk about or you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I would love to set another world record, or another 2 world records, or however many I can. And then, you know, seeing if I do end up qualifying in all my events, which hopefully I do, then I would say I have potential for 4 golds. So that's really been the ultimate goal, I think, or at least since the last Olympics. So, yeah.
Yeah, you keep pushing yourself. We talked about the ability to do that, and teammate wise, do you rely on teammates to help push you besides camaraderie and all that, though? But who are some of your teammates that really you turn to push you to help get that extra whatever you need?
Yeah, we've got a really large professional training group here, and most of us are breaststrokers. So I've got a really really good group, and my number one competitor in the nation, and honestly, like one of the other in the world who can push me in the 200 breaststroke is my training partner. So it's really nice to kind of have. I don't want to say my enemy, but definitely the biggest threat. In my backyard. We're good friends, but yeah, it's nice to have that person there pushing you and training with you every day because you know exactly what's going to happen in the race.
And what is that like to have your quote unquote one of your best friends be your biggest threat as competitive wise? I mean, I know that's better than it's probably better than someone you don't like, but it's got to be a challenge because you don't want to get beat by your teammate, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's one of those things like we race every day in practice, and I'm used to beating her and she's used to beating me. So when we get to meet, it's not too big of an issue. Obviously, we still both want to win the race, but it's really nice to have that person, in training and in the race that, you're comfortable racing and you're comfortable training with. And it's just a nice thing to have when you're in a race that so many things can be uncertain.
And coming from Indiana, a school that obviously has a great legacy in this sport, but they had fallen off from being one of the greats, and then you were a big part of that resurgence. And they're back on both sides, men's and women's. Great success these last several years, and that success continued to come forward. How does it feel for you to know that you're a big part of revitalizing a really proud, important franchise?
Yeah, I like to think that. I think that's mostly Ray's doing. But yeah, it's nice to be kind of back towards, getting back to the golden age of ice swimming. And, you see all the pictures on the wall at our pool of, all the Olympians that have been there before. And, it's pretty inspiring just to know you swam for the same program that they stand for. And, I'm really glad we're getting back to being the team that we once were. So it's really exciting.
And just getting back to being an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, what does it mean to you? Because I know, and having talked to you before, I know that it's special, but having represented Indiana University, being from this state and representing them in the world, how special has that been for you?
It's been awesome. I've always said I'm an Indiana girl through and through, and I love being from here, love being from Evansville, and now being part of the IU community and the Bloomington community. And it's really nice to just know that, like, I have represented my home state so well in my hometown, or both my hometowns now, Like, I live in Bloomington. So, yeah, it's been pretty special.
And looking way deep into the future, is coaching something that you would ever consider or look at?
I thought about it, definitely. I don't know if I would want to coach at the collegiate level. I don't know if I would be that committed to it.
A lot of recruiting travel.
I could definitely be coaching at some point.
Teaching, you see, I don't know what would be worse, coaching or not worse, but harder, coaching or teaching 12-year-olds. Both are a great battle.
Yeah, I love the 12-year-olds. They're fun.
Well, if I had Lily King as a teacher, I'd be a good kid too. I promise you. It's not every day not very many kids have an Olympic gold champion as their teacher. That's got to be super. I know it's got to be super special for them, because if I was a 12-year-old kid, I would be so in awe. How do you handle that aspect of kids? Because I know it's got to be something you deal with.
I mean, you'd be amazed at how many kids genuinely don't care, which is the best part.
Yeah, I have a daughter, so I completely understand. What's next for you, Lily? I know you're in the middle of training, but just personally, what's next for you?
I'm just swimming, so that's about all I can do. And we don't really know what meets are coming up, or what meets are gonna happen this summer, if we are gonna have any. So I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah, and for someone whose life, when you're on the Olympic training and all that, your life is pretty structured, I would imagine. I mean, like all day. That's got to be a huge change right now for you as well.
Yeah, that's why I was at home for a couple of weeks in Evansville, and I didn't have a schedule, and it was so strange. I just didn't know what to do, and all the days were starting to blur together. But now that I'm back up in Bloomington, I've got at least a little bit of a structured day, which is much better for me.
Well, that's good to hear. And I hope you can get out and go get some yogis or some buffaloes, some wings today or something. Just enjoy and stay safe. But I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us again. We hopefully can do this sometime in the future to follow you, keep going with your training and where you are. But the best of luck in your training. And thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. There's Lily King, your former Olympic gold medalist, NCAA champion, Big Ten champion, everybody's champion from IU. And so grateful to have her joining us here on the program on Indiana Sports Beat with Coy and O'Leary. Also had a great time talking to Jim and Jim Reamer and Coach Ray Luz, Indiana's coach, today on the program. So that was awesome. Logan Duncombe, a big recruit for Indiana. We'll talk about that more tomorrow with Todd Leary when he's back with us. So looking forward to that. Also, DJ White on the program this week. So looking forward to that as well. Getting to that. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for us, I believe. It's been another great day and a fun time. We appreciate you guys joining us, trying to make sure I don't miss Matt Harms. We're going to talk about that. We didn't get to talk about that as much today as I'd like to. Todd's back tomorrow. I saw some quotes from Matt Painter. He was really taken by surprise by this. And I saw that Matt Harms said that he, quote, wanted more, which not sure what that meant because he had lost some of his playing time. But, man, do you think he's going to go to a better program and get more playing time? It's weird. But he has some suitors. He had at least 25 colleges that had reached out to him when I had saw last. But five of the big five that I saw was Kentucky and Louisville, Seton Hall, Arizona, and there was somebody, Oregon maybe, I think. But the rest of them were kind of lower. I don't see that happening. But he's going to end up on a good team most likely because he has the option of that. I talked to Todd about that yesterday. Yeah, I could see him in a Kentucky uniform. That would just be perfect for that. But looking forward to that. But we'll be back tomorrow to talk about all that and more. We'll be talking more about the Mr. Basketballs. Those 5 finalists were released today. Dre Davis, John L. Davis, Trey Galloway, Anthony Leo, and Tony Perkins are in that final 5. The girls, Kendall Bostic from Northwestern, Madison Layden from Northwestern, and Sydney Parrish also, who's heading to Oregon to play ball. But we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. So appreciate everybody joining us here on the program. And for Todd, who's not here, and Jake, who is, until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.